Okay, so what is happening on Bernie's side?
Well, I mean, once again, the Hillary's advertising arm of the mainstream media is just basically saying, put a fork in him, he's done.
Hmm.
Sanders is done. Let's just move on. Let's coronate our queen. She's going to go in and get and get results like she has her
Through,
whole career. Um, but so it's just that same old song and dance that's going on right now. Um, but once again, these polls, they don't. Nobody under 30 is polled because they don't have landlines.
mm.
So
Well, heck,
it's
I don't even think most people over 30 have.
well, and the other thing is Sanders right now is ahead on all levels of where Obama was at this time. Go back 8 years. He's accomplished more and is further ahead on everything. The only difference is Hillary has had 8 years to figure out, all right, this is not happening to me again, and has been working all her contacts and arms and media people and donors and established Democrats to just like not let that happen again. And everybody has interests that she will guarantee I will protect. I will not change anything. And she has no trouble lying. Absolutely no qualms. Just doesn't feel anything. There's just nothing. You know. So
You know who she reminds me of is Chevy Chase in that funny movie Spies Like Me, where he's like, or Spies Like Us, I guess, where he was just like, oh, did I say that? I don't remember saying that. Are there any?
yeah. So she could say whatever she wants, and it doesn't matter. And just feels there's nothing to feel guilty about. There's no. It's all just staying on course and taking care of all the people and the connections and the infrastructures that she's built with all the corporations and CEOs and finance people and established Democrats and the media. So it's really a big David and Goliath thing, but we don't know how many people are really going to get excited and come out and are going to vote for Bernie because it's not showing up in the media and it's not showing up in the
Well,
polls.
you just saw a complete reversal in where was it? Where in the last election, I forget which it was, a governor who was elected when they said in the polls he had no chance to win, and yet then they count the votes and he wins the election. That's how I remember. I told you these quantitative polls are very flawed. So we don't really know yet. But what I think Bernie really has to do is to come out swinging in a positive way.
Right. Well, he's getting more like I'm not gonna drop this email thing. I mean, he's starting to move more in that direction and going. I got to draw some contrast here and go. Hey, wait a minute. Hillary's changing her mind on everything because basically her strategy seems to be agree with Bernie on everything, and where Bernie's not going to move because, like, Bernie has his views and he hasn't, he's not invited to the big parties and the, laughing on the yacht and eating caviar off the naked chick type of things. He's not in that group. And so where he stands is where he stands. It's really not going to change, and it's been the same for years.
Well, I
So
mean,
so
his entire net worth is probably less than one of Bill's speaking
yeah,
engagements.
or yeah, Hillary makes more in a half an hour talking about nothing than his whole entire net worth. So basically, like Hillary's strategy is, I'll agree with everything that I can I can flip flop on later, and not piss off my big donors and
Well, she's
and
got the
and, and
perfect way to do that. She simply will blame the Republicans. I
right.
couldn't get it done because of the Republicans.
Right. And then other part of her strategy is draw a hard contrast on anything that Bernie is not going to lie and say, well, this is what I think now. Like gun control is one of them. And Bernie's not a woman, so she can just like play that woman card so hard.
Here's the
And
thing I think that people aren't talking enough about is for the Democrats. The Democrats have been losing ground in gubernatorial races, in Senate races, and state legislature races since Obama got in office. And that's why having a third term of Obama, which is what Hillary would be, is not really going to work for them. And I think this is why Bernie has such strong support, is because major people within the party say, wait a second, we have to change here. Our message is, people don't believe it anymore because we've been saying it for all these years and nothing's really gotten better.
Right. But the big dogs don't want to change anything. And they figure these Republicans are so insane that especially on a presidential level, it's like who's gonna vote for anybody over Hillary when they're that crazy. But it's like Hillary doesn't inspire any excitement.
If Jesse Ventura and Al Franken can get elected to high offices, why can't Trump?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, a lot of people would vote against Clinton or just be indifferent about it, and just go, well, God, I don't know, and as Bernie Sanders points out, which is accurate, Democrats lose when people don't vote because there's more Democrats. So if people voted, then more Democrats would win. But when you have like these candidates that are just as owned, I mean, it's Beelzebub and Mephistopheles is still at all the same parties. They're still at the Bush parties and the Clinton parties. They're invited everywhere, so they win no matter what. So what you need to do is get somebody who's not invited to those parties. Who's not in the bunker at Kenny Bunkport or on that fabulous yacht away from where anybody can hear what anybody's saying. That's what you need.
But and in fact, because Bernie's doing fairly well, and the outsiders are doing very well on the Republican side. In my view, the electorate is tired of that. They're tired of those party type decisions that are being made. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think Bernie should come out with a very strong message for the next debates on what he wants. And I worry about the fact that the way these structures are, they're structured not to allow him to really say what he has to say.
Right. Well, who's hosting the next Democratic debate's coming up in a little over a week, right? Who's hosting that? Do you know? I guess we'll have to look it up.
I don't know. I'll have to check. I wanted to say NBC, but I'm not positive. Not CNBC, but NBC, but I'm not positive.
Well, I mean, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be a Hillary advertising arm that are just gonna shape it so she won, and then all the pundits will come out and say, "Oh man, she totally won, totally kicked butt." Let's just roll her in, and it's just because there's been 8 years of setup for that, and 8 years of positioning, and everybody in those high levels have a lot at stake.
I think one of the things, though, is the CNBC's taken such massive grief for how poorly they executed the last debate that Bernie's people, if they were smart, would start running a preamble saying, we can't have any of this. We have to be able to voice our opinions and tell the people what we're all about. And if you don't do that, they should get a massive backlash. So by having that preamble, that dialogue with the voters, Bernie could sort of tone the thing in a slightly different, or present the thing in a slightly different tone, because they would realize that's what's been happening. And he has to get that message.
Yeah, but Bernie doesn't have the power. Like Trump can say that because Trump means ratings. Trump has leverage because if Trump shows up, people are watching, and it's like
you know what I would do if I were Bernie? I would call up Bill O'Reilly, and I would say I want to be on your show. I want to debate you on your show.
I mean, I still don't think that Sanders, the establishment still thinks he's a crazy old man with no shot.
Okay, but
and it's not going to mean ratings. It's not going to mean ratings. And the thing is that Sanders would school O'Reilly, and O'Reilly doesn't like to be schooled.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I think Bill O'Reilly has such a big ego that he would say Bernie Sanders isn't going to school me. Number two, I disagree with you. It would be massive ratings. Massive ratings. for Bernie. Then hear me out.
Yeah.
And Bernie would bring up some very good points that even O'Reilly might even agree with. I mean, he might have to say, okay, well, I kind of agree with that. You know, the American public isn't better off and so. But here's the thing it would do. It would give Bernie a way to beat on Hillary, which Bill O'Reilly would totally love. Okay? So he could separate himself from Hillary. How are you different from Hillary? Let me tell you how I'm different from Hillary.
I agree, but here's what I think on the big picture conspiracy side and why I think that would never happen. Is that A, as I said, Aristophanes and Beelzebub, is it all the, you know, whether it's Fox or CNN, you know, Clinton, Bush, whatever, they're at the parties. They're at the parties toasting and laughing because they want their people in. Nobody wants to help Sanders. And if they see it as helping him somehow by having them on the show, they're just not going to do it. They would, I mean, the Republican powers that be would probably love a Clinton president because nothing is going to change in the things that are important to them.
Well, I think if I were Bernie, I would still call him up and I would do it publicly. I would say, I am publicly saying I'm going to come on Bill O'Reilly's show to tell my story. What is O'Reilly going to do? Say, I'm not going to have him on? He can't do that. He cannot do that.
Well, but it's not even...
Because here's why. They say fair and balanced. So, Bill, if you're fair and balanced, have Bernie on to tell his story.
But A, they're not fair and balanced, and B, it's not O'Reilly's decision.
But you're missing the point here is Bernie wins then. Bernie essentially wins.
Right. He would. Yeah, you're right. He would win either way if they don't have him on.
And it would be big news. It would be big news because all the other people would say, see, Fox is so biased they wouldn't even have on Bernie Sanders. Right?
Maybe. I mean, because remember, it's still the big media that decides if they want to cover anything, and they're certainly not going to cover anything that helps Sanders out. They're certainly not going to do it. Well, I mean, you think CNN would say anything that is going to help Sanders?
One thing you're forgetting is that Bernie has money that he's spending on advertising.
Right, you're right. And
so he can say, I've called these people out. I've said I'm going to come on and tell my story to you, and you'll see why it works for the United States. And that's a message that will ring with people because who are the only people that rank as an industry lower than Congress? The only ones are
right.
media.
It's the media, and I mean you're right. It's that even if nothing happens, you can go to his donors and you can get the email and saying, look, I did this and this. Please donate $3. I mean, that's what he asks for is like $3, which is another contrast. He's getting $3 from the people, whereas everyone else is having these expensive $10,000 a head fundraisers, meeting with the income creators.
Except for Trump, because he already got his money.